Welcome to your Flame Fundamentals training. One common aspect of finishing is applying titles in the sequence. So you'll learn the most optimal way for creating titles, get to grips with the basic workflow of the text tool, edit the look of the text, and place it where you want. You'll finish off by trimming the title and adding a fade in and out. When it comes to generating titles or text in the sequence, you use the text timeline effects. This is found in the Add Effects window. However, I will be suggesting a slightly different way of adding to the edit. Instead of adding the text timeline effects directly to the segment, I recommend using a gap segment above the existing edit. This will give you maximum flexibility for the timings of the title. If there isn't an empty video track above your sequence, simply create one with the Track Plus button. Now you can select the gap segment and manually slice it to the length using the X keyboard shortcut. However, if you want the gap segment to be the length of the segment below, select the original segment and press Option X to cut the gap segment to the length of the selection. Now you have a matching gap segment, and you can select it and add a text timeline effects using the Effects button. To create your title, after adding the text timeline effects to the gap segment, either click the Editor button or switch to the Effects environment. To create any text, you must first create a new layer. You can either click the New Layer button or just tap in the view. In this example, you'll be crediting the actor, so type starring. And on the next line, type Sean Earl McPherson. So text has to be created within a text layer, and you can have as many layers as you want. Since this is a simple title, you can do it all in one layer. Now there are a few modes to work with text, and you choose them using the pull-down menu. The two main modes are Move and Edit. Because you'll use these modes more than the others, you can toggle them by pressing Escape. So when you want to move a text layer, either dragging on the screen or slider controls, you need to be in Move mode. And when you create or edit text, you do it in Edit mode. Now when editing any property of text, you need to ensure you are in Edit mode and the specific characters are selected. If you want to select all the text in the layer, you can click the Select All button. By default, you normally get plain white text, and this can be changed to the left of the interface. Fill is enabled, and you can change the various settings. But you also have Underline, Outline, Back, and Shadow. For instance, enabling shadow will apply a drop shadow, and you can adjust the positioning. You could also enable shadow blurring, but you'll only see the result if you click the Preview button. This is what you'll get when you return to the sequence. To change the font of a specific line, ensure you are in Edit mode and highlight the first line of the text. Next, click the font box to open the file browser. From this point, you can load all different kinds of fonts, and you can even click the System's font folder to access most of the fonts installed on your system. This could be previewed as a list or tiles, and if you don't see these thumbnails, click the Generate button and Flame will create the necessary preview. Please note that fonts do not need to be installed into the operating system for you to use them. Just navigate to them and choose the specific font. The highlighted text will appear in the font preview, and you can load the font. When the text is highlighted, you can also perform various adjustments like sizing, kerning, and the adjustments will only affect the selection. Select the second line and go ahead and change the font. To align all the text to the right, ensure you select all the text and change the paragraph alignment to right. To position your text layer in the frame, you need to be in Move mode. This will prevent any unnecessary editing to the text by accident. To move the layer on screen, you can either grab the axis or click on the text before dragging it around. The position is displayed in the Axis menu, and you can also click and drag the sliders to position the layer. By default, the axis is positioned to the top left of the text. If you zero out the sliders, the text will be positioned off-screen. You do have the option to switch the axis to the center of the layer, and zeroing the sliders again will place the text in the center of the frame. Next, you can move the layer vertically and place it at the bottom of the screen. Clicking the Preview button one last time will show you the final look of your title. When returning to the sequence, you will see the gap segment containing your title above the edit. Currently, the title runs the entire length of the shot. To trim the title within the shot, switch to the Trim mode and ensure that Ripple is turned off. Now trim the head and tail of the gap segment into the shot. So the title comes in just after the shot starts and goes out before the shot finishes. To fade the title in and out, select the transition and apply a dissolve. This can be done using the context menu or keyboard shortcut. Please move on to the next video and don't forget to like and subscribe to the Flame Learning channel. Thanks for watching.